My name is Isaac Telly, and this is my submission for the simulation assignment. So first off, the event. So for this assignment, the event I have chosen was a Minnesota Golden Gophers football game. Their opponent was the Iowa Hawkeyes. The game took place on October 25th, 2025, and the result of the game was a 41-3 loss for the Gophers. So to start off, Article 1. This is the summary from the Gophers official site. So the title of the article was Gophers Overwhelmed at Iowa, Host Michigan State Saturday. The chief author didn't list it, so it was the University of Minnesota Athletics Department. There's the URL I've included to the article. The article was published on October 25th, 2025 at 5:51 p.m. Sport covered was obviously football. And there's various types of convergence used, including text elements such as the game summaries and the key takeaways at the bottom of the article, visual elements such as the photo from the game, and then video elements. And those in the article included were game highlights. You can kind of see it at the bottom of the image I added. And then at the bottom of the article, there was also a post-game press conference. The second article, this was a post-game summary from Inforum. The title was Gophers Destroyed in 41-3 rivalry loss to Iowa. The chief author was Andy Gradier, the St. Paul Pioneer Press. I included the link or the URL to that article as well. This article was also published on October 25th, 2025. This one a few hours later at 7:22 p.m. Sport covered also football, and then the types of convergence used. This one there are only two text elements, such as the game summary and player and coaches quotes. And then the visual elements, they included one photo of the game seen over there. Styles of writing between the two. So in the Gopher article, or the University of Minnesota article, there was very little storytelling. There was just really a brief summary of the scoring. They didn't really get into too many details. They included a short section at the bottom, including different takeaways for both teams. Mostly how the Gophers couldn't really get much offense going. They didn't get too far into that, and then just how dominant Iowa was and how successful they were from a statistic standpoint. The flow of the article, it flowed in a chronological order from the first to fourth quarter. Um, Again, very little in-depth look at the actual game, more of just like this player scored a touchdown, they got the ball back, something like that. Additional information, they also included a box score. They had a section where it had you could filter through the different stat leaders for the Gophers from the game, as well as overall team stats like passing yards. Uh, and then in the Inforum article, there was a lot of storytelling. One funny example that I found in there was the Gophers wore white helmets, white jerseys, and white pants. A white flag would have been a fitting accessory. I found that pretty funny because obviously the game was a blowout, which is tough for a rivalry game. The main role or function of this article was to inform and influence. Obviously, they're informing people or readers of the score and what happened in the game, but they're also kind of influencing the reader by framing it in a way of how poor they played. The article, in my opinion, made it seem not that they favored Iowa, but they're really critical of the Gophers and expected better of them. The article also flowed in a chronological order from the first to fourth quarter. However, this one included more quotes mixed in and comments. So they would kind of do a little bit, they would kind of set the stage or set the scene before mentioning the big play, saying how uh, players were driving down the field or they just couldn't get anything going, and then mentioning the specific player making a big pass or getting huge yardage from a pass. And then as far as additional information, they had embedded ads and links to other related stories as far as sports stories, not necessarily all University of Minnesota stories, and then a link to the comment section as well. Comparing the site designs between the two, so the Gopher Athletics page, their site had a very clean design. They obviously used UMN colors, maroon and gold. The logo was seen multiple times on the page. There was easy navigation with some of the navigation panes, including the roster, place to get tickets, and etc. Links included related news and related videos, specifically previous Gopher summaries and player highlights. They also included a link to the next game against the Spartans, such as live stats and tickets for that game. They also linked their social media, X, Instagram, and there was very little advertising on this article. There was only 2 display ads, and then the tone overall was very professional. For the Inform article, it was set up like a typical online newspaper, headline at the top, the main image, and then the text to follow. Navigation, similar to the UMN page, other than the fact that instead of switching to the roster and tickets, it was the weather, the news, other sports around the area. Links included must reads, which was pretty much just local news, around the web, which was primarily health articles, and then other sports, which included other colleges. I think there were some professional sport articles mixed in there and some local sports as well. And then there was a lot more advertising present in that article. There was at least one banner ad, a few pop-up ads, and then there was subscription promos throughout the article as well. And the tone in that was a lot more commercial driven. And then just some additional facets of the articles that I found important. Um, the way that the different articles informed or influenced readers, they did it in a different way. So the Minnesota Athletics article was strictly to inform the readers of the stats of the game. There was no quotes present, and based on the very tough outcome for them, they pretty much tried their best to keep the team in a positive light. An example of how they did this was mentioning how 7 of the last 10 matchups against Iowa were decided by a touchdown or less. The Inform article, they pretty much just told the whole story of how the team struggled from the first quarter to the fourth quarter, and they really didn't hold back and were very critical of the team. Um, and like I said, there was a lot of storytelling, and that was pretty much just to build up the drama and emotion to keep readers engaged. The types of photos used I found were pretty interesting. So the Minnesota UMN article had a picture of a Gophers player making a really cool play. It looked like he was jumping over one of the Hawkeye players, which again kind of helps paint the university in a more positive light. Whereas the Inform article, their photo was of a Gopher player actually getting tackled. So it was kind of a perfect way to summarize the game for them. And then again, just the overall tone and voice of the article. The official UMN article, their main job was just pretty much to represent the institution, and the Inform article was more about revealing the actual story of the game and what it went into it. And then these are the sources that I used for this presentation. Thank you.